Hello everyone and welcome back to another Batman miniature game 3rd edition battle report. Still haven't got the Mr. Freeze crew quite ready yet. Also they need to upload their cards to the website so that they're usable, because at time of recording they're still only in the app, but fingers crossed that changes soon. But in the meantime we have a 350 rep match between the Soldiers of Fortune with the Flashpoint flavour versus the League of Assassins on the table layout that you can see before you. So let's look at the two crews. So here is our Soldiers of Fortune list, being led by Flashpoint Batman with his dual handgun upgrade, so he doesn't have the Amazonian double blood sword. Free agent, or maybe he's a henchman, I keep forgetting. No, he is a free agent. We have Clock King. I can't remember if he's been on the channel before or not, so we'll see how he performs with his time manipulation, and he has a unique objective card and stuff like that. And then we have an assortment of the Soldiers of Fortune troops. We have Malicia, who has a backpack. We have Cuchillo, who has a grapple gun. The Sharpshooter, who has a camo vest, and then the Infiltration Op, because she's just fantastic in every possible way. And for the purposes of their cards, I believe 4 of them have the veteran traits, these 4 here. For whatever reason, despite like pushing 70, Flashpoint Batman does not have the veteran trait. So here is our League of Assassins list, mostly 3rd Ed themed. The only difference is having Damien there because you can't quite fit in Lady Shiva with everything else that's here from the 3rd edition releases for the League. Being led by Big Ra's al Ghul with the Pure Lazarus upgrade, so he has regeneration. We have Ubu, who has combat bracers, I believe. Robin is taking the upgrade, I think it's called Precise Orders, something like that. So if Raish does manage to get taken out, he becomes the leader. And then we have the League Acolytes 1, 2, 3 and 4. They have a couple of upgrades between them offhand, don't remember which is which, so just know that they're all here. The 2 close combat focused, and then the 2 arrow focused. One of which, with the Falcon, can be really, really good. So I think that about covers everything. With that, we'll get the teams deployed and see what cards are being played before first turn. So we are all set up and good to go. Forgot to mention during going over the crews, but both sides have a Mastermind. Flashpoint Batman and Raish have Mastermind, so it's +1 from each of them, essentially cancelling each other out. The Soldiers of Fortune are taking first activation and they've deployed on your right, the League are on your left. There's one Phase 1 card being played, it's by the League, and it is from the Shadows, just to get it out of hand. It's target an enemy model. If that model is the first model you remove as a casualty, you score the card, and it is being played on Malicia, who is right there. Largely because Infiltrate Op has Master of Stealth, so she can only be seen within 6, and Cuchillo has normal stealth, so outside of 8, etc. So, and the Sniper has a camo vest. So, not many choices for that to make it applicable. We can see who has Audacity here for the Soldiers of Fortune. Clock King, Malicia, Flashpoint Batman, and the Infiltrate Op, of course. Over here, the Falconry, Archer, Raish, Ubu, and Damien. Did I even mention Ubu in the going over the crew? I don't think I did. Either way, the other bow-wielding Acolyte has hidden and has deployed there thanks to the, I think it's called From the Shadows upgrade, which is one I forgot to mention as well. So with that, we are ready to jump into Battle Round 1. So it was Cuchillo who got the game started for the Soldiers of Fortune, who are 1 man down totals wise over the League. He walked forward up to these cars for cover from the potential archery coming in from over there, and put down a suspect marker using the Free Inspire from Flashpoint Batman. Didn't do anything else. League Acolyte 2 got the game started for the Assassins, and it was pretty much a snap activation for him. He moved up and used Raish's Inspire to also put down a suspect marker right over there, so there's going to be a jumping over the cars next turn to get into combat. So it was our veteran Sniper over here who activated next for the Soldiers of Fortune. He has a scope with aim, and he has to reload as well. Crits, or rather, well, critical hits with the strength die do bleed 3, and he's base 4 blood damage, so that's a potential 7 if he got a crit. He shot all the way down the field because he's not limited by the knight with that scope. And he shot into Raish, but only 1 die got through against Defense 5 Raish, so it was the strength die that got through without a crit. Now, Ubu does have Bodyguard. He could have used an effort to take that hit instead, but with Raish having regeneration, he decided he could handle it. So that might prove to be a folly. I don't know. We'll see as we go on. Didn't score anything off of that, but did put a little bit of damage in against Raish. So League Acolyte 1, who's the one leaping with the sword overhead, activated. He was close enough to Raish for that Free Inspire. He moved up, using the tree here for cover, even though he is illuminated by that light, and he put down a suspect marker. Malicia was next up with Audacity, although she was right next to Batman as well. She shot up 10 inches, put down a suspect marker right there by the car, And then for her special action, use Super Jump, which is a remove from table, place within 6. So she leapt over both cars and came crashing down with a thud over there, presumably aiming for him next turn. During her turn, she played Cyber Attack. Target up to 2 enemy suspect markers, roll 1d3 plus 2, place a marker on each with that number. Reduce the value at the end of each subsequent model's activation. If both of the suspects are still in play when a counter reaches 0, you score the card. Rolled a 2, so it becomes a 4. So that suspect marker's got a 4 on it, as does this one. So if they're both in play 4 activations from now, Cyber Attack will score. Next up for the league was Ubu. He's got 10 inches of movement and made good use of them here to rush up next to the telephone booth. He put down a suspect marker such that it is just outside of 4 of that one there, counted down to 3, and within 4 of the suspect marker Malicia put down, because that would score under their noses. For the first actual scored card of the game, a friendly model places a suspect marker within 4 inches of an enemy suspect marker. 2 points on the board for the league. So it was time for Flashpoint Batman to spring into action as much as someone his age can. He leapt forward his 10 inches, which is actually pretty decent, and he removed his own suspect marker in order to convert it into turn 1 viable commodities, so he's now holding on to the loot. Getting out the way nice and early, he's holding on to, he's probably the safest hand on the table, although definitely Raish poses a threat to him. Ubu might as well, honestly. We'll see how it goes. Robin activated, working for the league. He moved up ever so slightly just in order to secure a card score here. He put down a suspect marker. It is outside of 2 of the 8 inch in deployment line. They're outside of 4 of each other just barely, but within 6, which meets the criteria for we cannot be defeated. You have at least 3 friendly suspect markers in play that are within 6 inches of each other. However, it doesn't score till the end of the round, on the off chance that someone comes in and tries to... well, actually, I just realised I was going to say remove them, but that isn't necessary because the Infiltrate Op could use hacking to make them not be within 6 of each other. Granted that other suspect markers can be put down because there's still Raish and the Falconry Archer still to go. We'll see how it plays out. However, with the completion of Damien's turn though, Cyber Attack scores to put the Soldiers of Fortune on the board for 2. So Infiltrate Op activated. She had been on top of that car. She moved down to where you can see her. She put down a suspect marker and also made use of hacking to move one of the enemy suspect markers next to the blue car there out of range 6 of the other 2. So currently we cannot be defeated is not scoring, but as I said, Raish and the guy over there might be able to do something about it. However, you might see there's also a 5 on the suspect marker he put down. That's because it met the criteria for invasion, which I don't know if we've seen played before. Play when a friendly model places a suspect marker within 4 inches of a scenery element that's also within 4 inches of an enemy. This car, or that car, either way. They're both within 4 of the acolytes on the far side. Roll 1d6, place a number counter equal to the value on the suspect, reduce the value number counter by 1 at the end of each subsequent model's activation. When it hits 0, you score the card. So if no one removes that suspect marker in 5 activations, it will score for 2. So Raish activated, and he did decide to, I don't know if you can say guarantee at this point because Clock King still has to activate, but more or less guarantee that we cannot be defeated scores by moving and putting down a suspect marker right there. So there is once again 3 suspect markers within 6 inches of each other. So the last activation for the Soldiers of Fortune was Clock King. There's still 2 left for the league though. He moves 8, and he needed almost all of that to get where he wanted to be, which was right there. He put down a suspect marker as his tactical action, and as a special action he used Time Bomb. You select an enemy, actually I don't even think it needs to be an enemy one, but you select a suspect marker within 8. He selected the one Ubu put down. You put a 3, you're supposed to put it on his card for the purposes of the video, putting it on the table there. Whenever anyone performs a manipulate action within 8 inches of Clock King, not the suspect marker, Clock King, he reduces that counter by 1. When it hits 0, you place the explosive template over there, does blood damage and slow 4. Just a little potential time bomb, literally. So with that, over to the final 2 league activations, and that timer over there, speaking of timers, will be down to 3 now, because it should have went down to 4 on his turn. The assassin with the bow in the corner over here decided to take some shots at Malicia because he could see her, and she was not obscured by the car from the angle he was starting at. Only the strength I got through though for 2 blood damage on her. So the final league acolyte to activate for the turn to see us to the end of it was the one with the bow who had been there. He walked over to the sewer grating, he manipulated it and popped himself up here to hopefully do some nasty stuff next round. During his turn though, multiple threats was played from the hand, target up to 6 friendly suspect markers. put a numeric counter on them at the end of the round, which we're at now. Roll the number, or roll a dice. If it matches any of the counters in play, you score the card. We're just going to roll for that now because we are at the end of it. There's currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 markers in play, so as long as this is not a 6, the card has scored. Well, would you look at that? Okay, fair enough. It did not score. So at the end of battle round 1, Raish has healed 1 of the blood damage he sustained in that turn. There was no stun damage to heal on anybody. It was mostly just people going for scoring. Speaking of which, there is a Phase 4 card being played by each side. Eradicate the Order by the League. There's more friendly assessment markers in play than there is enemy. 5 playing 3, so obviously yes, that scores. For the Soldiers of Fortune, it's a little cheap how this works, but they're scoring Ground War for 3. You have at least 2 models not suffering KO within 4 inches of the same scenery element that's within 8, or actually inside, the opponent's deployment zone. 4 of them are well within 4 of this car, and the back end of this car is within 8 of the deployment zone, because the deployment zone is 8, and then another 8 for 16, back end of it just touches it, so that technically scores. So that has also scored, countering the other card. Invasion is still in play for 2 more activations. Valuable Commodities is still in play because Flashpoint Batman has the loot. From the Shadows does not score because Cuchillo did not go down, so it's discarded. And We Cannot Be Defeated scores because of this little triangle behind the phone there of assessment markers. So that did score for 2. So here we are at the top of battle round 2, and it is the League that is taking first activation this turn. It's going to be a cluster in the middle. You can see who has Audacity, the only exception being the Falconry Archer up on the roof there has the Audacity as well. And there is 1 card being played, a Phase 1 card. It is another from the hand, and it's from the Shadows. And once again, poor Cuchillo is the target of said card, so if he is a casualty, this will score for 2. Ubu got the round started and he had 1 singular goal, go after Cuchillo. 10 inches was more than enough to get into base to base, plus his scimitar has reach, which is now reach 2, because they changed how reach works for every model that has reach, if you aren't aware, in the app. It's a numeric value now, so most people are back to what it was in 2nd edition, which is range 2. I think Harley is the only one that has a range 1 with her hammer, and the new Lobo they've released for Christmas has range 3. Either way, he got into base to base, he attacked, neither of them efforted because Ubu didn't feel he needed to. He did, however, before engaging in Felonious Assault, use his special action to inspire fear. Cuchillo failed the test by 4, which gave him scared 1, terror 2, slow 2, something like that. He was losing defense and whatnot, so going in with efforts was not required. 6 damage through. Poor Cuchillo is out of there. On the completion of Ubu's turn, that ticked down to 1. Obviously, Soldiers of Fortune are activating now, so Invasion is just going to score now on for the purposes of that. But during Ubu's turn, he also put down a suspect marker because he's a henchman, and he started with an 8 of Raish, so he has a free Inspire Manipulate. So he put it down and scored an Under Their Noses, because he's within 4 of an enemy suspect marker, he's right next to it. So not only did he score Under Their Noses during his turn, but the From the Shadows played in Phase 1 for Cuchillo dying first came true, so that also scored for 2. That was a very effective turn for the League. So while riding that Venom High, Malicia activated, so remember Venom gives her +1 strength die, well, +1 on her strength die, 2 free efforts, and she also has the Venom and Rage rule that Bane has, which means she gets invulnerability 2 for this turn, which hopefully won't matter if no one decides to murder her. Anyway, she moved over to the building, then used Super Jump to leap onto the building to punch out the Falconry Acolyte up there. Reinforced Gloves doing double stun. 2 free efforts from her already. He didn't put any in because the stun damage coming in. 6 is enough to stun him and also score Search and Destroy. And any model suffers at least 2 hits during an attack action where a friendly model performs at least 2 efforts. She did, but they were free, so no stun damage on her. Damien activated and decided to go after Clock King with his very fast movement. He was able to get into base to base with his double blood handy sharp katanas. And Clock King efforted 3 times, Damien efforted twice, and Clock King did very, very well with his defense rolls. The strength die, despite having a reroll, did not get through, so he lived. They both took stun damage they essentially did to each other, so a pretty bad result. During Damien's turn though, another multiple threats was played. I'm going to forgo putting the numeric counters on because we're just going to use the same convention as we did in the first turn, but we check it at the end of this battle round. Oh, and before I forget to mention yet again, when Ubu put down that suspect marker, that was a manipulate within 8 of Clock King. So the timer on the time bomb he put on this one has counted down to 2, but so far no one else has done that. So Clock King activated, and he's not really much of a fighter. Apparently good at defense, but not much of a fighter. So he moved behind these trees, and we are counting these trees as fully obscuring, even though there is a little branch at the bottom, or their trunk. But they're so massive that we're counting them as fully blocking. And that matters because he hid from Damien, put down a suspect marker, and that met the criteria for Black Ops. Friendly model places a suspect marker within 8 inches of an enemy model that can't draw line of sight to the model or of a suspect marker. So we're counting that as scoreable. Also during his turn he used time control, where if during his turn he put down a suspect marker, you select an enemy model, he's selecting him. If he's not the next one to activate and then in his turn he goes on to put down a suspect marker of his own, you can search your objective deck and take any card you want and put it in your hand. So, just something you can do for a little bit of manipulation there. Also, he is not exempt from his manipulation rule for the time bomb, and he's within 8 of himself, so that time bomb is ticked down to 1. Ra's al Ghul activated, suffered impaired movement to hop over the dumpster here, which put him close to Clock King, and enough that, as per the new rules, he has reached 2 on his double blood sharp scimitar, so he can reach him, because he's got a range of 2 around him, and he efforted just 1 time. Clock King only had enough effort, room in his willpower to do it twice, and as you can already see, Ra's cut him up good for 8 damage. More than enough that sadly, Clock King is clocking out early, which also means that we're not going to see a time bomb explosion, which is a shame, but it's almost like Ra's is like a professional assassin or something. He seems pretty good at that. Flashpoint Batman activated, he hopped up onto the car. His pistols have assault, so he doesn't lose dice for moving and firing, he just takes a -1 instead. He also used rapid fire to throw in an extra die, and unloaded his bullets, blood stunned sadly, into the Acolyte down here. But he did pretty well with it, got 4 blood, 4 stun. I think this is a 5/6 mini though, so he's conscious and still alive. During Flashpoint Batman's turn though, he put into effect another Ground War card, scores at the end of the turn. If everything meets up as is, he and Infiltrate Op are still within 4 of this car, which is still within the 16 of the enemy deployment, or 8 of the enemy deployment, which is 8. So it's on par to score as long as Infiltrate Op doesn't move more than 4 inches away from that car. The Leaping League Acolyte down here moved over to this tree, apparently he just likes putting suspect markers next to trees, and did the exact same thing he did last time. He didn't have Audacity, but he did have a Manipulate via the Inspire of Ra's, who was right next to him on the far side of that tree there. So due to dwindling numbers, we're already at the last activation for the Soldiers of Fortune. It's the Infiltrate Op. She hopped over the car with impaired movement. Her assault rifle is single blood assault red dot, so she can move and fire without losing dice for the same kind of criteria as Flashpoint Batman. She did lose dice, or a die, to cover though, because she shot into the man here. Did 2 blood, which was exactly enough to remove him. She's also a henchman, and, well, she doesn't even need to be next to Batman because she has a radio by default, but either way, she also removed the suspect marker that was right next to her, and then used hacking to bring 2 of them towards her. So there was 1 League Acolyte left to go, the other one with the bow, because the Falconry one was knocked out. However, I did forget to talk about the Sniper over there, since he will technically be the last Soldiers of Fortune activation. He's not doing anything, he's just going to stay there and reload. He could technically drop down, but that would make it easier for Ubu to get him. He wants to stay up there because he has a pretty choice selection of shots from where he is, but he has to reload. So he's not doing anything. This Acolyte though, he used up the last of his standard arrows, he shot them at Flashpoint Batman. Strength die got through. Actually no, he can't have. Does he have bat armor? Forgot he had bat armor, good job I checked. So actually he did nothing, never mind, because it was only the strength die that hurt him. Whoops, so I think that does take us to scoring. So at the end of Battle Round 2, in a game that is definitely going to get faster now thanks to the Soldiers of Fortune being reduced by 2 and the League reduced by 1, we've got some additional cards to talk about, or rather we have 1 additional card to talk about that wasn't already in play. The League is scoring another Eradicate the Order for having more suspect markers than the enemy. Simple, for 3. The multiple threats just scores. They have 6 suspect markers down, each one would have a number, there's no point rolling, it also scores for 3. Putting them quite substantially ahead, I think. Ground War does score though, because Flashpoint Batman and Infiltrate Op are still within of that car as previously discussed, so that has scored for 3, and Flashpoint Batman is still holding onto the loot, so that remains in play as well. Ra's has healed some stun, he also healed 1 blood because of his regeneration upgrade, and who else healed stun? Robin healed stun. I think that was it. So with that, let's jump into Battle Round 3. So at the top of the penultimate round, did forget to mention that the Falconry Acolyte did not wake up, so he is staying unconscious for this turn. Everyone in the Soldiers of Fortune crew have Audacity because there's only 4 of them left. Raish has got Audacity for the League, so does this guy down here. So does Damien and Ubu. Basically the only one who doesn't is the unconscious guy and the other archery guy who's just been hiding in that corner. Doing pretty good work, honestly, without having Audacity. 1 card being played. It is the final, I believe. From the shadows to target an enemy model, Infiltrate Op is the target this turn for the League. That's the only card going into play additionally. And with that, let's jump in, and it is the Soldiers of Fortune who are taking first activation this turn. So knowing that she has a target on her back this turn, it was Infiltrate Op to activate first for the Soldiers of Fortune. Used Hacking to move a couple of suspect markers again, and also had a free Manipulate from Flashpoint Batman being right above her. She used her tendencies to get behind this large dumpster here. She removed the suspect marker that was there and put down one of her own. We're not counting vertical height, as that wouldn't be particularly fair, so we are saying that she's fully obscured from Raish, which does meet the criteria for a second Black Ops to score for 2. So Raish Al Ghul was first up for the League, but the League made a catastrophic error in forgetting that Infiltrate Op is defense 5. She is not easy to take down, 6 health too. He went around the dumpster, or hopped it, whatever, to attack her, again with his double blood scimitar. She efforted 3 times, so did he. Forgot to mention when he was attacking Clock King, he is of course arrogant, so when he's attacking people less rep than him, he loses a die, which sucks. And as a result of her defense 5, only the strength die got through, so she only took 2 blood damage. She might be safe. So was the sharpshooter activating, it's hard to say, sharpshooter, activating and using the last of his ammunition, but he showed what he can do. When he didn't move in his previous turn, Hold Breath kicked in, which means he gets 3 defense markers, and he can spend those for +1 to his crit die roll, strength die, to get a crit, and just +1 to his basic rolls as well. So he shot at Ubu, and all 3 hits got through, 2 normal shot plus a strength die. So he does 4 blood, so that's 12 blood right there. Plus he got a crit because it was a 4 on the strength die, which he had 3 markers. So that throws in an extra 3 because it's got bleed 3 on it. So he did 15 damage. So Ubu is dead. Didn't score anything on doing it, but Ubu is dead. Damien activated and made use of his grappling gun to give him more than enough movement to get down here to help his granddad beat up and Infiltrate Op. She efforted twice because that's all she had room left for in her willpower. He did 3 because that's all he had room left for. 2 hits got through with his sharp handy, so he had full rerolls, and that is enough that Infiltrate Op went down. And because that's the first casualty that the League removed this turn from the shadows, does score for 2. Flashpoint Batman leapt down from the car there and went after the bow acolyte over here. Activated precise blows with his special action for +1 to his attack dice rolls, and it's a reroll on a strength die, I think. Didn't need it either way. Did 8 stun, very, very easily knocked him out. He has 6 health. And he efforted twice in order to score Search and Destroy, so he was rolling a bunch of dice because he's attack 5. So that has scored for 2. And that does mean, oh, it's just the other League Acolyte over here to go for their turn. Yeah, this Acolyte is just off in his own suspect marker deploying world. He moved up and he put down another one. That's it. So it's over to Malicia to see off the penultimate round. So Malicia stayed where she was up there on that roof and decided to try and coup de grace the Falconry Acolyte. Punched him out on the floor, 1 extra blood damage for each hit that goes through upon her, on top of her normal damage, which is just more stun. So she only did 3, that put him at half health, and that does take us to scoring. So as we prepare to go into the final round, Battle Round 3 ends with neither of the knocked out Acolytes waking up. They are staying unconscious for the rest of the game. And there's 1 card being played. It is the final Eradicate the Order for the League for another 3 victory points. They're sitting comfortable, I think. But there is still 1 more round to turn it all around. Some stun damage is healed off everybody who is conscious. With that, let's jump into Battle Round 4. So dawn of the final day, the Soldiers of Fortune have retained first activation, and everybody who's conscious on the table has Audacity. There's 1 Phase 1 card being played by the Soldiers of Fortune. They finally drew their Die Hard is being played on Malicia, which is why she stayed up there on the roof. So she's basically safe because Damien can't use his grapple gun this turn. So she is safe up there. It's just going to be a last minute clamour for points. Let's see what happens. So it is probably going to be a pretty quick turn. Flashpoint Batman activated. He's the only one who could do anything to score for the Soldiers of Fortune. His handguns are light, so he can shoot them in close combat. He pointed at the ground and just started blasting into the poor acolyte. 5 hits for 5 blood, but also because he's unconscious, the coup de grace rule presumably counts. Actually, it might not because he's in close combat. Well, either way, he would do 5 blood, 5 stun. It's just the stun damage doesn't apply because he's already unconscious, but in total that's still 10 damage. So it still scores catch a bullet for doing at least 6. So we can actually cover just 3 league activations to take us to the end of the game. That's not interacting with the Soldiers of Fortune at all. The sniper can't fire. He can't really do anything. Malicia wants to stay up there on the roof to protect herself. I think I forgot to mention that Flashpoint Batman used his grapple gun to get up there at the end of his turn incidentally to keep himself safe from Raish. Because Raish can't get to him now. So for Robin's turn, comes over here, reveals that, scores the Fire Rises for revealing a suspect marker within 6 of a friendly boss for 2. The Acolyte over here walks over, puts down a suspect marker, that scores the final Under Their Noses for 2. And then during Race's turn, in which he activates and unactivates, taking us to the end of the game, he puts into play a multiple threats. Every number is covered, so it just scores. So we can go straight to the final piles, because Valuable Commodities scores for Soldiers of Fortune, because Flashpoint Batman still has the loot on him. And Malicia lived through the turn, so the Die Hard also scores. So with that, let's go see who's won. I think the league is taking this just because of how high value their cards are, but who knows. Alright, here are the 2 piles. They're actually a bit more even than I thought they were, so let's see. We'll start with the league. So that's 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 25, 26, 7, 28, 29. 29 for the league. That's way too bright. 29 for the league. 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 24 plays 29. Relatively close, but it is a League of Assassins victory. So that was a fun one. I sincerely hope you enjoyed watching. It's always tough for the Soldiers of Fortune going up against the League because they have cards that require veterans on the table and outnumbering the number of suspect markers either via veterans or just how many they've placed. And when the League is able to place so many, it's very hard to keep up with them, which I think stifled their victory points. Had they managed to get a couple of extra early cards scored via having 4 veterans, yeah, 4 veterans, they might have made the swing or maybe made it more even. But the League did well. Flashpoint Batman is fun. Bane is obviously, he's the focus here, but he costs so much rep. We will see the Nightfall Bane soon. And I hope soon the Mr. Freeze crew. They're basically almost done painting. We've got one more on the painting table, I think, and then the base list is ready to give a trial run using the new Mr. Freeze deck. They just need to put the cards on the website so I can get them printed off, because I can't use the app to track them, because you still can't track games in the app, which is what it was meant to be for, but clearly isn't. Anyway, enough about that. Thank you very much for watching. I sincerely hope you enjoyed. See you next time for maybe Mr. Freeze, or if we're still waiting, something else. Ta-ta for now.